Join with video. Oh. Didn't get to test me audio. Join with computer audio. Okay.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Do I sound like I'm coming through my correct microphone?
I think so.
Microphone Yeti. Looks like it. Speaker. Yeah. And this camera right here. Yep. Okay.
Stoked. This will be fun.
How do we make everybody... Why are we using Zoom now?
I love Zoom. I actually, to be honest, it's probably not worth $180 a year, but it's like Skype would work about as well. Like, but I'm stuck with it because I already paid the bill. So
fair enough.
I think once it's up, though, I'm like, all right, that's enough of this stuff. But yeah, this would be awesome. I'm excited. I love. What's the story behind how you got that epic costume?
Well, the corn memes have been a thing for a while. But if they support the channel to a certain extent, they can unlock different stupid rewards, and this is one of them. And they got it.
Wow.
So now I have a whole corn costume. So when I'm doing very serious topics, they tend to bully me into the corn costume.
That's awesome. It looks good. It's well done, well made. But yeah, let's see here. I'm sure Tom will be on in any moment. I just got the link out to him the same time as you. It snuck up on me. And are you on the East Coast or the West Coast?
Michigan, so Eastern time.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because I think, if I remember right, Doyle might live in Michigan. John Doyle?
Yeah, John Doyle does live in Michigan.
Yeah, you guys are like brothers. But yeah, so basically...
He blocked me after that.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah,
Oh.
we haven't gotten to get him back on. I think that, yeah, it was a rocky one. It was a fiery one. And I think we should maybe give people more, heads up that we're pretty like hands off. We always want the debaters we want you to have freedom. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want to be over regulating you guys to where you're like, well, I thought I was your guest. Big Tom. And we actually have Ruby is actually going to co-mod, which is going to be a huge help because I'm usually like scattered in terms of my attention. You probably noticed, but stoked to have you here, Tom. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Hope you're doing well. I can hear you. It is a little bit. Let me check on OBS. It might be a little low, Tom.
Can we get in-person Doyle? He's
and the Ruby Spacek. Thanks so much for being here, Ruby. Appreciate your help.
Hi, yeah. No, can you hear me okay?
Oh, wow.
Absolutely. And I'm going to check right now.
That is loud.
Okay. If we can do a check, 1, 2, 3, we can start from Tom. Let's hear what you got.
Yeah,
Testing.
Ruby's pretty loud.
I can just move this, like, is that better?
Yeah,
that's better.
Okay, I'll leave it right there. Also,
Cool.
Hi.
Glad you're here. And yeah, this will be fun. So I'm just squeezing these little boxes together in place on OBS, and then we'll be off to the races. So
awesome.
Who do either of you have a preference, Jake or Tom, in terms of who would go first?
No, you can go first.
Sounds good, Tom. Are you awake?
No.
Gotcha.
Oh no. Nice. This will be cool.
Let's see here.
Also, I'm Ruby, by the way. So it's Jake and Tom or TJ?
Yep.
Oh, do you like Tom or TJ?
I don't care.
All right. I'll just alternate.
Bring in the energy tonight.
I know.
Are you okay, Tom? You seem like, did you just give like 2 pints of blood or something? You seem tired.
Yeah, I biked 26 miles and I did parkour for several hours. I'm tired.
Wow. Parkour?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That's dank.
That's very dank.
Stoked you made it. And let's see here. Almost set. Thanks for your patience.
He does fucking parkour, chat.
So Tom, we'll have you go first.
He
and
does
then
fucking parkour, chat.
What I will also do is, Ruby, what I will do is hand it over to you after doing like the channel intro and like housekeeping stuff of like, hey, you know, we're on podcast and all that.
Yeah.
And so for that, I will basically say, now I'm going to hand it over to Ruby, who will lay out the format as well as get our speaker started. And the format just, again, being a flexible 10-minute opening statement. And then after those, from each person, we'll go into open conversation and 30 minutes Q&A.
Might
and
need
so,
to
yeah, we're
put the...
All right, and the open conversation, that's for like an hour?
50, 60 minutes.
Oh, gotcha.
Might need to put the tired emote back in play, huh?
Let me just throw the old blazer on. I'm excited.
So, Jake, is there a reason for the ensemble?
Yeah, it's accidentally my brand. Chat is they bully me into that kind of thing. Corn is a accidental dog whistle for positivity in my community, and it spiraled out of control to the point where I debase myself regularly. So yeah.
Nice.
So they paid for this today, and I can't deny them that.
Yeah, you have no choice. So I think it's very festive.
Festive. Did you say corn is a symbol of positivity?
Yeah, it's like a accidental sort of like positive vibe thing, and wheat is not. Wheat is the opposite. It's like because of the stupid. There's a meme video where a guy drives past a cornfield and he cheers. He's like, "Yeah, corn!" And then he continues to drive. And if you're from the Midwest, you realize that every once in a while the fields split, and then there's wheat next to that, and he goes, "Fuck you, wheat!" And it's just so random and weird that became kind of a thing on the channel. And then over time, someone made like a art, and there's little cute corn mascots, and then it got out of control. But it's cool. It's cool. So
yeah, I'm here for it.
Yeah, the internet's a weird place.
It is. It's a little weird sometimes.
That's funny. I have to see that clip. I like that kind of stuff. Like, you're just like, what?
It's a very strange corn-related cult. I don't get it.
All right, so I just hit stream start, or I just started streaming just to see if the audio and video is coming through. So we're not live yet. Only the intro music is. And yeah, so. And then Ruby, let's see. So Tom, you guys both in the Midwest. Tom's in Minnesota, Jake in Michigan. And then Ruby, are you on the East Coast or the West Coast?
I'm in the East Coast. Wait, I hear the music really loud right now.
Do I totally get it? No, okay. I don't. None of us totally
50% of the U.S. is on the East Coast. Isn't that crazy? Roughly 50%.
Is that true? I can't really hear you that well because the music is like going into my ear. I don't know why.
Oh, do you have the watch page like on?
Oh, yes, I do. I was like, what the heck? Like, why is that like happening so loud for me?
I mean, if you really wanted, you could, but so yeah, I'm pumped. Apparently the sound is working. It works for Ruby, so it works for me. Pumped, and we'll basically, I'll do a quick cold open where I say, hey everybody, today we're debating all lives matter versus Black Lives Matter, and we're starting right now. I'll hit the quick logo video clip, and then I'll introduce you guys and all that stuff after that. And so it'll be like really clear, like an obvious one to say hello. So stoked, and here we go in 3, 2, 1, ready, set, go, starting now. Hey everybody, today we are debating Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter, and we are starting right now. I'm so stoked. It's like it's me in a great mood. Okay, switching over.
I love the part.
Ladies and gentlemen, thrilled to have you here for another epic debate. Welcome to Modern Day Debate. I'm your host, James Coons, and we are a nonpartisan channel hosted
are focusing on hosting debates in the fairest way possible so everybody has their fair shot to make their case on an equal playing field. We're very excited to let you know as well that all three of our guests are linked in the description. So that way, if you're listening and you're like, I like that, you can hear plenty more from Tom, Jake, and our guest moderator, Ruby, who I will be handing it over to in just a second. But before we do that, I just want to ask everybody if they can share just what people could expect to find at the links in the description. So we'll start with Tom Tjump. Tom, glad to have you back. If you'd like to share what people could find at your link and maybe just one or two sentences in terms of what your channel is about, the floor is all yours.
Yeah, I'm a YouTuber. I debate professors and philosophers on different topics in philosophy. I destroyed James in a few debates. You can see that. Very entertaining. Yeah, it's about what I do.
Always with a sense of humor, Tom. That's what I like about you. And we're excited to have Jake back as well. It's a pleasure. And Jake, if you'd like to share just what people could find at your link in the description, thanks for being here.
Yeah, so we do political stuff. I often do debates, and sometimes chat makes me dress like a corn cob. So that's that. It's a very LGBTQ friendly space. We often have I have like an open door policy, so if someone disagrees with me in chat, they typically end up on my Discord if they want to talk, stuff like that. And I've debated like everybody. I don't know if you've heard of them. I probably ended up debating them at some point.
You got it. Absolutely. And so want to do a couple of quick channel housekeeping things up front before I hand it over to Ruby. And first, though, I want to ask Ruby, what can people expect to find at your link in the description?
Well, for me, I just started using YouTube like a little over half a year ago, and I started making videos about addiction and other social issues and kind of expanded into politics and like feminism and sex work and pretty much anything that's controversial.
Point.
YouTube will not monetize me. But yeah, that's what I've been doing so far. And I do live streams and debates sometimes also.
You got it. In fact, that's right. Ruby, you've been on here debating before. So we're stoked to have you both as a debater and a moderator tonight. Thanks for your help.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
So, folks, in terms of the debate overall, want to let you know, Ruby will let you know what the format is. If you have a question, though, during the debate, feel free to fire it into the live chat. I'll be keeping an eye on that, adding those questions to the list. We do have a new rule, just because we want to remain modern day debate, not modern day super chats. And so what we're doing is, if you have a sincere question and you can fit it into a $2 super chat, we'll definitely read it. Like, absolutely. But if you have something like, Tom Tjump looks like an egg, and I'm like, okay, like, we're going to charge you extra that. We're not going to read it unless it's $5. We're trying to cut down on those. That's why we're upping the price, because we don't want as many super chats like that we have to read. So just a fair warning. And with that, we're going to kick it over to Ruby. Thanks so much for your help. Ruby, the floor is all yours.
All right. So tonight's format is we're going to have 10-minute opening statements. I believe Tom is going to go first. And then after that, we're going to have an open discussion for about 50, 60 minutes, followed by audience Q&A. So with that, Tom, if you're ready to go.
Yeah, sure. So I support all lives matter, not Black Lives Matter. And the primary reason for that is that the fundamental premise of Black Lives Matter, that police killings happen more to African Americans than anybody else, it's just false. It's not supported by data. It's a myth. And so I can't really support Black Lives Matter because the foundational premise is just not true. The police brutality is definitely an issue, but it's an issue for all lives, not just Black lives. To demonstrate this, I can just take all of the cases from 2015, chosen at random. There's Timothy Smith was killed by a police officer who was mistakenly thought he was reaching into his waistband to grab a gun. The shooting was ruled justified. William Lemon was killed after he allegedly failed to show his hands upon request. The shooting was ruled justified. Ryan Bollinger was shot dead by a cop who said he was moving strangely and walking toward her. The shooting was ruled justified. Derek Cruz was shot in the face moments after he opened the door for police officers serving a warrant for drug arrest. Cops recovered marijuana from his house. The shooting was ruled justified. Daniel Elrod robbed a dollar store and when confronted by police, allegedly failed to raise his hands upon request. Through his window, who witnesses of the event insist otherwise, he was shot dead. No criminal charges were filed. Ralph Willis was shot dead when officers mistakenly thought he was reaching for a gun. David Kasich was shot twice in the back by a police officer while lying face down on the ground. A 6-year-old Jeremy Mardis was killed by a police officer while sitting in the passenger seat of a car. The officer's intended target was his father, who was sitting in the driver's seat with his hands raised out the window. Autumn Steele was shot dead when a police officer, startled by her German Shepherd, immediately fired his weapon at the animal, catching her in the crossfire. For brevity's sake, I'll stop there, but the list goes on. For every black person killed by the police, there's at least one, usually two white people killed in the exact same way. For example, the day before the cops barged into the home of Breonna Taylor and killed her, the cops barged into the home of a white man named Duncan Limp and killed him and wounded his girlfriend who was sleeping beside him. Even George Floyd, whose death was particularly brutal, has a white counterpart in Tony Timpa, who was killed by cops in 2016 in Dallas, with a police officer who had his knee pinned on his back for 12 minutes instead of 8. The video, you can hear the killer Timpa whimpering that and begging that he can't breathe and that he should be let out. And after his death, the cops began cracking jokes about telling him to wake up for school. Criminal charges initially brought against them were later dropped. Let me pause there for a moment and just linger on that point. I really encourage you to watch the video of Tony Timpa being killed. Just to search it on YouTube. It should be the first thing that pops up, and observe what you feel when you watch that video. Do you get that same surge of emotion as you do when you watch George Floyd being killed by Derek Chauvin? And if not, I want you to consider maybe there is some racism, but it's not with the cops. It might be with you. I think at a gut level, it's hard for most people to see the same level of outrage when cops kill a white person than a black person, because it's just the victim narrative kind of a thing seems to portray African Americans as more worthy of victimhood than other races, when in fact the same problems exist for everyone. And so it's really more of an all lives matter issue than and skin color just shouldn't really come into it. It should be Black Lives Matter should have been a movement about police violence for everyone, not just for Black lives. It doesn't really make sense to try and focus on a Black lives issue when it really doesn't disproportionately affect Black lives. I mean, you might agree that people killed plenty of unarmed, or police killed plenty of white unarmed people too, but maybe it's that they kill more unarmed Black people, like disproportionately, that it's significantly more, but that's where the data comes in. It's misleading to claim there's some kind of racial bias here, because even though 37% of police deaths are African Americans, 37% of violent crime is also African American. So the amount of deaths is proportional, and there's been 4 studies that have found this to be the case, that there isn't a racial bias among deaths by police. So it is disproportional in the fact that African Americans only represent 13% of the population, but it is exactly proportional to the amount of violent crime. There is a disproportion in the amount of violence that police do on African Americans, is about 20%, but there's also a disproportional rate of killing or shooting of white people, which is, I don't think, closer to 20% also. So there is some disparity there, but it's not really that big of a deal when you compare that one is beating them and the other one is shooting them. It's kind of, I don't know which one of those you would prefer. So this shouldn't be a Black Lives Matter issue. Why is this movement not about police brutality? Why isn't it about all lives? Why isn't it about what is the point of portraying this false narrative that it creates, that this dissemination that African Americans are disproportionately affected by violent shootings of police? If it wasn't for this false dissemination, the social relations between Black and white people would be less tense. Trust in police would be higher. Businesses across the nation might not have been spared, or might have been spared the looting, the destruction. I mean, there are a lot of problems that this narrative has caused, and it's completely a myth. So I can't support that movement for that reason. I mean, the solution is that millions of Americans on the left need to realize that deadly police shootings happens to Black people and white people alike. And as long as the critical mass race issue, they see this as a race issue, every video of a Black person being killed is yet another injustice in a long chain dating back to the hundreds of years ago in slavery. I mean, what should be done is that it's true that police violence is an issue. I absolutely agree. It totally is. But the focus of Black Lives Matter shouldn't be police violence or police killings. There are lots of actual real race issues that Black Lives Matter should be focusing on, like education system, or the corruption in politics, or common sense gun laws, or voting rights and criminal justice reform. Those things are actually listed in the Black Lives Matter manifesto, but they're given a back seat to this myth that African Americans are shot more than white people or at a disproportional rate or something. So that's the main reason I can't support Black Lives Matter. Another is the fact they don't propose any new ideas to solving these problems. They're just parroting the same other ideas that have been presented before, but they don't really do anything to create a change in politics. Like even there's been a few major changes that have been caused due to them, like in the Minneapolis and a few other states have decided to change funding for the cops. And there was one really interesting thing they did, which was they got like $30 million removed from funding for private prisons, which was really great. That's the greatest success I think they've had. And they've also had an increase in body cams, third-party complaint reviews. They were talking more about qualified immunity and getting rid of those. Those are all good things that they've done, increases in body cams. But overall, with the $100 million or so that they've raised and the thousands of protests that they've accumulated, they haven't really had that much of an impact, and they haven't really been putting their money where their mouth is to actually like improve communities or to build schools. Or even I would think they should be using it on lobbying, because we know the NRA and other big government organizations can lobby and make change effectively, make political change. So if Black Lives Matter was really serious about changing policy, that would be the way to spend their money. And so for these reasons, I can't really support Black Lives Matter, because it's founded on a myth. They don't have a good policy ideas. They don't really use their money well to make change in the world. It's just not really a useful organization from my perspective. And that's why I don't support Black Lives Matter.
All right. Well, thank you, Tom. Jake, you can go ahead.
Sure. Totally unaware that you wanted to do 10-minute intros. I usually just do conversations, but that's fine. So one of the first things you said, and you mentioned a few times, is black people killed at a what you consider proportional rate, which is interesting. The data doesn't bear that out whatsoever. 13% of the population experiencing half the police shooting deaths is not really the case here, or at least half the number that white people do. So that's obviously disproportionate. And then if you say 37% of violent crimes are committed by black people, and that's proportional to the number of shootings or whatever, that's very obviously, and studies do show that is due to the fact that they over-police those areas due to systemic racist issues that spawn back from, the very foundation of policing, which was to catch slaves and to return them to their masters. Like, the entire policing apparatus is, in fact, built upon the idea that black people are inherently more violent. And I would ask you, do you actually believe that black people are inherently more violent? Or do you think that maybe there is a correlation between number of police officers in an area and how often they would catch a crime? You could also take into account the fact that we often, as a nation, have cordoned off black populations into very compact living situations in poor neighborhoods due to things like redlining, not being able to have fucking home loans until the 60s. The civil rights movement in general had to happen before they could even have certain living situations that weren't in specifically black areas. So, like, to dismiss that as just really dumb, and I don't know. I just don't know how a person that can look at that data and not understand that is obviously a systemic issue. It's like you think Martin Luther King existed for a little bit, and then suddenly we defeat racism, Barack Obama exists, and now it's good to go. But like, people are actively telling you, because of the Black Lives Matter movement out loud, which they tried to do back in when Obama was still in office, when Colin Kaepernick took a knee and other NFL players took a knee to try to bring a voice to a population of people that are outnumbered in this country, black people, in regards to their experiences with police officers. It's pretty ridiculous to say that the overwhelming report that you get from black communities insofar as their experience with police officers is concerned, it's weird to sit there and yawn and say, well, I dismiss your experiences, your lived experiences, because, well, I looked at this number and it looks like it's fine, without applying any sort of actual social, like, understanding or context to it. Like, not everything is buried down in like numbers and data, you have to understand the social context in which that data is presented. And maybe you don't understand that because you're a philosophy person, but I come from a history background, and you have to contextualize that stuff in regards to what people are talking about in the moral zeitgeist. Insofar as the shootings, many times you mentioned that shootings were justified. I'd love to know, or ruled justified specifically. I'd love to know if you stand by the idea that shootings can be justified, and if you think it's reasonable for police officers to execute people in the street prior to trial. In any case, I'm assuming you would probably agree that it's fine in self-defense situations, but I'm wondering what your parameters are when in regards to self-defense, like a person of color with his hands up, sitting down on the ground, trying desperately to plead with police not to kill his autistic patient, and then getting killed himself. Do you think that that was a justifiable act, or do you think that maybe his skin color made people act in a certain way, as studies do in fact show? You also mentioned specifically that there's no like actual change happening with Black Lives Matter, which is obviously incredibly reductionist and incorrect. I mean, you can make the face if you want, but the fact that we are here talking about this, the fact that mainstream media is talking about, the fact that places that don't often have this dialogue about racial injustice are in fact having that dialogue is literally an indicator that there are changes happening. Just because something hasn't been legislated yet, especially under this current administration, which would be highly unlikely regardless of the situation, it doesn't mean that there's no action being taken, whether that's privately or if that's through legislative action. People are running literal political campaigns on the idea of defunding police or changing the idea of policing in general. It's not change because they haven't done it yet. It is in the process of changing. If you are confused how that is the case, I don't understand how you can ever like if something is in the planning stage, it's not a step toward change. That's very strange to me. But right now people are talking about defunding police, or not just defunding police, but abolishing police and restructuring it in a way that, like, say, for instance, in the scenario where the person with the autistic patient was shot dead in the streets by cops, maybe there would be social workers there to try to help understand the situation better than people armed with guns. Also, you don't mention or seem to care about the idea that police are highly militarized, and that obviously escalates situations. There's no mention of the Second Amendment and how we fetishize guns in the United States, and how every person in America possibly being armed and concealed or open carried. In the case of Philando Castile, for instance, he got shot for being a lawful gun owner, which is interesting, and shows again a bias towards skin color in regards to that, where recently we just had the Kenosha shooter who actively killed 2 people, whether that was in defense or not. He was holding a live weapon, he had just fired it and discharged it, killing people, was able to walk toward police, not listening to their commands, and he wasn't shot dead in the street because they didn't think he was as much of a threat as someone that was, I don't know, hanging out next to his kids in a car trying to break up a fight, being shot in the back several times. There's a lot of post hoc reaction when it comes to this kind of thing, where you go, yes, but look, this person had a criminal record, which you can't know at the time, so it doesn't really explain the reactions when the thing happens. Like, when a shooting occurs, they don't necessarily know what the hell is going on in these situations, much in the way that people justify the Kenosha shooter's terrorist actions, in regards to him killing a couple people, and one of whom I believe was like a pedophile or something like that, or sex fiend. I don't know. I don't really think we should be killing people regardless of the crimes they've committed in the streets, unless it's, again, a self-defense act. And maybe it was in that scenario. Who knows? As far as other acts that are being taken place, all NBA players have been really taking a lot of action here, specifically spearheaded by LeBron James, who is donating millions of dollars towards voting reform. He is also, in his own communities in the Cleveland area, open schools. He has promised black children the ability to due to the fact that a lot of the neighborhoods are impoverished due to how we pay for schools via property taxes, not really a way out. He has built schools in his area. He has recently, along with other NBA players, signed a petition and have pledged money, actual physical money, towards expanding voting in every area around. Every NBA arena is going to be a voting location for this next election. There is obvious change happening. I mean, even the fact that you have Kamala Harris, who is a cop and is for the heavy incarceration of Black Americans, and not just Black Americans, just everybody. She just wants to put people away in prison. Her very famous speech on that, where don't build schools, build prisons. Even the fact that they get to push her left on this issue, even if it is pandering, is important. These are important things that we are discussing. As far as public support, overwhelmingly people support Black Lives Matter. It's at least 25 points up from the disapproval ratings. Most people agree that major police reform is needed. Most people agree in general with Black Lives Matter. Some people specifically don't agree with aspects of rioting post curfew and removal of statues and stuff like that. But that's kind of a separate debate, because a lot of that is like more of an Antifa leftist movement, not necessarily a Black Lives Matter, although there is intersection in between those. I don't know how long I've been talking. Is that enough? Are we good?
Yeah. If you guys are ready, we can go into just the open discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, first thing, I mean, like, pretty much everything you said I didn't mention are literally things I mentioned. Like, the gun laws, I literally mentioned that one of the good things Black Lives Matter is advocating for is common sense gun laws.
What do you think a common sense gun law is?
What? You just said I didn't mention the gun laws.
What do you think
like,
a common sense gun law is?
Let me go through these first. So the things you said I didn't mention, I did actually mention them. Like,
okay,
so,
I'm fine if I missed it. You talked a lot, and that's why I don't usually like the opening.
You asked about rule justified. All of those cases I ruled justified were white people shot by cops, unjustified. They were like, just had their hands out their window. And
right, no,
shot
this
them.
is what I'm talking about. Like, it's fine that those are white people. I agree that white people also get shot. But do you think that there are situations where cops are justified? Like how on board?
Sure,
with...
like self-defense would probably be justified.
So what kind of?
But what you mentioned after that was you said this is a clear example of like the guy trying to prevent the cops from shooting his mentally handicapped friend. He said this is a clear example of racial bias, and I'm like, well, no, it's not, because like the same thing happens to white people too, at a higher rate.
It has, if you take out per capita, of course it happens at a higher rate. But obviously, as smart individuals, you and I, we would never do such a thing. We would never just look at the data and go, the number of people that are white are higher than the number of people that are Black that are killed. You'd have to look at proportional data, and of course, per capita, Black people are killed at a much higher rate. And
wait, go back to that part. Go back to that part. So you said it was like 50%. That's false. It's
no. I'm saying about half the number of Black people are killed to the number of white people killed by police officers. It's roughly half. You could look as it trends.
That's
sometimes it's
accurate.
45%, sometimes it's 55%.
Yeah,
it goes around. That's what I meant with that 50%.
Okay. So yeah, it's not half of all. It's just half compared to white people. That's fine, but that's still proportional to the amount of violent crime. So I don't see why that's
not proportional to the amount of violent crime. It's proportional to the amount of violent crime that police interact with.
No, I'm just going off of the violent crime stats based on race.
Yes, because that's the amount of violent crime that people interact with, right? If you're not interacting with violent crime because you're not policing white areas as much as you police Black areas, obviously you're going to find more crime in Black areas. Do you agree?
Are you saying there's like some kind of epidemic of violent crime that's not solved in white neighborhoods or something? Like, I don't understand your argument there.
Epidemic?
Like you're saying,
no, not necessarily. What? Because you're discounting the reasons that crime would occur in the first place, right? Because it sounds like to me. Do you think that?
No, I don't care about the reasons why. I'm just saying here's.
Well, the reasons why are the whole reason. No. The reasons why are the only.
Don't matter at all to my position. So my position didn't mention the reasons why yet.
The reasons why. Well, the reasons why are core to my position. So you're going to have to listen to them.
I'm sure they are. So just let me go over my position, and you can say yours. So my position is here's the amount of violent crime, which is 37% for African Americans, and the amount of African Americans shot by police is 37%. So that's
so let's stay on this right here.
Okay.
So do you know what the reasons of crime are?
There's lots of reasons of crime.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And so do you think that the reasons, the instigators of crime causing parameters in human experience, do you think that black people experience those at higher rates or lower rates than white people?
What?
Okay, so do you think that crime causing instigators are experienced more often by black people or white people?
Um, per capita, you mean, right? So at a higher rate, it affects poor people more. And since African Americans make up more poor people, it would affect African Americans
Right.
more.
So yes, that tends to be correct. Also, population density tends to be a factor. So when you have a systemic issue in regards to how we have housed black neighborhoods in the past and how they have moved forward, they don't have familial wealth until, like, I'm in my 30s, the first generation of black individuals where you had the possibility of real familial wealth in any meaningful way, they are my age, right? So most people come from poor backgrounds if they happen to be specifically African American in the United States. Do you agree?
Sure, but that doesn't excuse crime. So
It's
I
not an
don't
excuse of crime. It's to
Sounds like it.
explain crime. No. It's an
So if they
explainer.
commit crimes, they should be policed more. I see that as perfectly reasonable. I don't think we should cut back policing just because they had systemic oppression in the past. Like if they commit the crime.
So do you see how that feeds into it, though? Do you see?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so you openly admit that we over police these, or you think we accurately police these neighborhoods because there is violent crime, and then it furthers the cycle of the oppression.
Well, right. So if someone gets arrested for a crime and they're put in jail and they have a felony, then they can't get a job, and so they're more likely to go to crime.
Okay, but you're
What was there a problem with that?
Yes, there's a problem with that because it seems to me that you don't understand that is like literally the catalyst for causing the crime in the first place.
What? So if they're not a felon and then they do a crime and they get arrested and they become a felon.
Right, but sometimes like a felony is something like a drug offense, right? So like the drug war.
Oh, right. Yeah, there's
particularly pointed.
Absolutely.
Right,
the war on drugs is horribly immoral.
So your solution to that is to continue to do the thing. You just
no.
Okay, so what would your solution be in order to
fix
reduce...
the policies, like in the war on drugs, not
okay,
in
so
the policing, correct the policies.
But the police are the people that carry out those sentences, and then they often end up in violent altercations due to the reasons that I cited before.
Those aren't the problems. So
that is
police,
objectively one of the problems. It's literally the problem.
That's proportional. Remember, that's the proportional amount of death to the amount of crime.
The
problem is the policies, the bad policies, like the war on drugs. If we end that, that's going to solve a lot of the problems. And so we should end the policies in Washington. Yes, ending the police who support the policies isn't the problem. The problem is the policies, not the police.
It literally is the problem, and they're telling you it's the problem, and it bears out.
It what?
It what?
You said it is the problem? Like the policies are the problem.
The police specifically carrying out other policies are the problem. So the policies don't exist in a vacuum, right? You have to have someone to carry out these bad policies. So if you fix the policies...
Right, but they can't carry them out if the policies are gone.
It seems as though they can carry them out because there are a lot of unjustified killings, and you agree, whether it's white people or black people, that they deem are justified that have no repercussion to the police at all. So you seem to think that on one hand... it's justified that they police these policies in a way that actively harms black people, and you agree. And on the other hand, you say they have obviously unjustified killings but face no repercussions, and you think that's a policy issue and not a police issue. And it's very strange to me that you don't think that that's obviously a policing issue when they are the police in the way it's
totally
organized.
I totally agree there are police issues, but the police issues are an all lives matter thing. This doesn't disproportionately affect African Americans, like I said earlier.
It does
affects them exactly proportional to the crime. So the amount of cops here commit murder illegally, proportional to the amount of crime there, and the amount of cops here commit murder illegally, proportional to the amount of crime there. There isn't like a racial divide there. It's just the amount of crime divide there. And the issue is the policies. If we fix the policies, like more body cams, like something else I mentioned that Black Lives Matter is advocating for, getting rid of the qualified immunity, that would also be a good thing. That's something that Black Lives Matter is advocating for. There's lots of good policy changes we need to stop the police, but just stopping the police isn't the issue. It's the policies.
It's not proportional. I know you keep saying that, but it's not proportional. Like, so for instance, if you have a couple children and you keep your eye on one of the children and you don't keep your eye on the other one of the children, the odds that both are doing bad stuff every once in a while because they just happen to be kids, it makes sense. Like, it's the same way with human beings
Sure.
as they grow into adulthood. The more you monitor a situation, the more often you're going to find them to infract certain things that shouldn't be happening. Now,
Sure.
again, specifically in regards to the drug war, in regards to the way that we house black people in the United States, all of these things systemically head towards making not only crime more likely in impoverished areas and in high population density areas, but also catching that crime, and also making policies that make you a criminal even if you're not doing anything necessarily unethical. And then you add into the idea that police have this carte blanche thing. It does obviously affect black people at a disproportionate level, not just because you say, oh, they commit 30% or 37% of violent crime. That's not necessarily what we have to look at. We have to look at more than just that. You have to contextualize it, because they only catch 37%, or they only catch that rate of crime because they are there that much. And I know that you rebutted earlier with, well, is there an epidemic of white crime like that? The difference is the use of lethal force proportionate when they see that, because 37% of all violent crime being black people is not all of the crime. And if you say,
Right.
so what's the proportion of white crime that is violent? What's the percentage of so how
What's
much
37% minus 100?
so
so
white
37%.
people do all the other violent crime?
I'm actually lumping in African Americans and Hispanics together. It's only so it's yeah, all the other violent crime is mostly white people.
Okay, so you lumped in Hispanics as well, which is weird, but
Minorities. It's just the stats. So yeah. So
okay.
the amount of white people killed by cops who are usually innocent
Right.
is proportional.
Okay,
to
so
the
it's
amount
not
of crime.
proportional. It's not
No,
proportional.
it is. So,
No,
so
because
the amount of violent crime they do is the amount of times interaction that they have with the police that lead to be murderers. Yes.
So do you
it's
have
exact
the
same.
actual statistics of how many violent crimes black people commit? Or do you only have the
FBI
minority?
stats,
Do
yes.
you only have the minority number?
No, they're on the FBI stats. Like, I don't have them on my hands. Yes, I do have them.
Why would you use the minority stats in regards to a Black Lives Matter?
No. I'm just lumping them together. You can.
I
They
know.
literally have
Well, it
both
doesn't seem very
categories.
prudent, I guess. But okay, so let's just
that
say that's
doesn't
the
make a
case.
difference at all to my argument at all. That's actually a stronger case against your position, but okay. So, yes, based off everything in the stats, the number of deaths on white people and black people from police is exactly proportional to the amount of violent crime. Yes, it actually leans more towards white people, because like 50% of murders, for example, are committed by African Americans.
It doesn't. Okay, so you have a population of roughly 42 million black individuals of the 344 million. So the rest of the population mostly is like 290 million people are white. Of those 290 million people in 2019, 370 were killed by cops. Of 44 million, 235 were black that were killed by cops. I mean, just quick, you don't even have to do the math in your head to know that one is obviously disproportionately black people get killed more often in interaction with police. It doesn't mean that they commit crimes at an... Most people commit crimes at roughly the equal rates, including drug offenses, including violent crimes.
No, that's
everything.
false.
No.
That's objectively false. They
it's-
literally have the stats to show that's false.
That... Okay.
The rates of crime are not the same per race. African Americans commit 50% of murders in everyone in America. 13% of the population, 50% of murders. They do not commit crimes at the same rate. That's just
I don't think you're
false.
understanding what I'm saying. I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying, and it's kind of disappointing.
Maybe not.
So 290 million people committing...
Why do the numbers matter here? Like, I'm talking about
Why
the
do the
percent. Who
numbers
commits? I want the
matter?
percent. So, like, you're confusing the per capita thing you mentioned earlier that we're not
what's
going to do.
So 370 people of 290 is a statistic.
Okay.
Okay. Do you need me to do the math?
I'm not
for you?
sure. Again, I'm not sure
That is
what
per
you're saying
capita.
here.
That is per capita. So 370 out of 290 million.
Yeah. So again,
Okay.
I'm not sure what
So
you're
that's
saying
how
here.
many-
The amount of
What I'm
cops-
saying is, if you commit a crime and you are a white person, you are less likely to die in your interaction with police, statistically speaking, based on the population versus the amount of crime that you create and the number of people that just get shot. Like you are less likely if you are white, based on just demographics, to be killed.
Yes, because there's less interactions with police because you live in a less criminal neighborhood, though that doesn't in any way
Are you equating
contradict
poor
anything I
with
said.
criminal?
What?
Are you equating poor with criminal?
In poor neighborhoods are more criminal, yes.
Her ramble
Not
was just
necessarily
irrelevant.
the case, but it is the case de
Because
facto.
you're like literally 1350ing right now.
I don't really care what your opinion is. I care what the facts are. So again,
Yeah,
as
the
I said
facts
before,
don't bear that out, though. That's not the case.
what do you mean the facts don't bear that out? The amount of people shot by police is exactly proportional by community based on the number of violent crimes committed by the community. Like, I don't get where this doesn't bear out. That's literally a one-to-one statistic. There are literally 4 papers I have lists that demonstrate this in every possible category.
I can't tell if it's like a class reductionist thing, like you don't really understand that, or if it's...
I'm not making any reductions. It's simply this community commits this much crime. This community has this many interactions with police, and which lead to violent deaths. There's no racial bias here. It's just they have that many interactions with police because there's that much crime there, which lead to deaths. Yes, absolutely.
Disproportionately, like based on
No,
just
exactly proportionally
it's
based on
not
the crime.
exactly proportional.
It's exactly proportional based on the crime. So crimes happen here. Police interact with people there a lot more, obviously. So it's proportional to the amount of crime.
I just don't know how to get over this hump when you just like it's clearly not.
What do you mean it's clearly not? Like, which part of the facts that I listed are not accurate? Do African Americans commit 37% of violent crime? Are African Americans 37% of the victims of police shootings? Yes or no? Which one of those facts is wrong?
Which one of the facts, specifically in regards to the population of white people versus black people, if you if you have a negative interaction with the police, you are more likely per capita to be killed if you are black. It's not saying who commits the most.
What? So again, which one of my facts was wrong? Which one of my facts was wrong? 37% of violent crime done by African Americans, 37% of victims of police shootings African American. Which part of those facts is wrong?
The entire thing. They're not facts.
What? They're literally from the FBI crime stats. Like, how are they not facts?
It's impossible for you to contextualize them. It's like you're looking at them.
I'm not contextualizing. They're just facts.
I know you're not contextualizing them. It's very inappropriate to not contextualize
you
something.
Can't say a fact is wrong because I didn't contextualize it. It's still a fact. It's still true.
But it doesn't. No. But the fact doesn't. If you contextualize it, it doesn't say the same thing, right? Because it's like saying, are you familiar with basketball? It's like saying, look, this person shot 30 times, okay? They made 30 field goal attempts, and they made 20 of them. They are an amazing shot. But if you take into the fact that they were within 5 feet, that makes it not as impressive as if they were like 15 feet away from the hoop. This is a big deal, or maybe baseball, or maybe you don't like sports at all. Maybe parkour doesn't have stats, otherwise I'd give them to you. But like you have to add context to stats, or they're just numbers floating around that you can make say whatever you want. To not take into account any systemic issues at all with these statistics is fucking abhorrent, and it's lazy.
No, it's just the facts.
Like, it isn't just the facts.
It's just irrelevant to the data. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's completely gibberish nonsense.
No, it's like saying
nothing you said is relevant.
It's like looking at temperatures that range from 1900 to 2000 and not taking into account the factors that would increase the global temperature. She's going, I guess the Earth's just getting warmer.
No, it's not like that at all.
It literally is, because if you just look at the numbers of heat in the United States, just in the United States, if you just look at temperatures from 1900 to 2000,
this isn't supporting your position at all. You're just gibberish.
It's not gibberish.
Literally, the stats do not support what you just said. There are 4 academic published papers.
It doesn't matter because there's
also
published papers that disagree with that. So
fine, give them to me. What are they?
It's like it just
because I've looked at them. They're not.
They're not.
Yeah, I've looked at them. I found these papers. I've been looking at them all the time. These 4 papers I have are the most cited. So
do you agree or disagree that it would be irresponsible to just say the Earth is getting warmer, we don't know why, or do you think it might be important to contextualize things in regards to global warming when it comes to the statistic of the overall heat of the Earth growing, right? Like, I think
we
it would be
we know why it's
very
getting warmer. Like, we know why it's getting warmer. And we
right
know why
because you
African-American
put it
communities
in
are policed more because
you
they're
put it
more
in
criminal.
context.
Yes. If there is a cause,
And I
to the
just
heating-
told you that you need to add
No,
context
I just
to it.
added the context. You're trying to add gibberish context.
It's
that
not
doesn't
gibberish
matter. So the
context to add
context is
systemic
this. No. The
to tell
context
you
is
that there
this,
is systemic reasoning behind the
which
idea that
doesn't
they're
in
over
any
policed.
way doesn't in any
Yes.
way change the position, because I didn't say
It
anything about
100%
the past.
does.
If there is more crime in an area, the area is going to be more policed. That is the cause. And if the area is more policed, that's going to lead to more
It's
police
correlation.
shootings. Obviously. That's causation. That's literally causation. If there's more crime, there will be more police. Causation. And if there's more police, there's going to be more police shootings. Causation. The problem is the amount of crime, not the police.
The problem is, so you're putting an inherent amount of crime on black individuals.
No, I'm putting an inherent amount of crime on certain certain communities that have an inherent amount of crime.
Okay, so
Like,
what do you?
there is this amount of crime in this community, which is a
And
measurable
again,
thing.
it's a
which you use the
systemic
statistics.
cause. Do you agree?
Yes, there are lots of causes
Okay,
that
so-
we need to address, which is not the police.
And that is what
the
Black Lives
policies.
Matter is approaching, and that's why it's important. That's why it's not an all lives matter situation. You just agreed
What?
with me.
No, it is an all lives matter because it does affect all lives. It is, and I said before that there
Black
are lots
Lives
of
Matter
things
doesn't
Black Lives-
discount all lives, for the record. What Black Lives Matter does is it says, please shine a spotlight on this aspect of pain that a specific minority group in the United States is experiencing. I'm sure you've heard it before, but it's like saying, my hand is bleeding. You go, I don't know, all limbs matter, but the bleeding in the hand has to be addressed, or you just bleed out. You need to make sure that you address this point. Yes, we agree. You also need your left hand if your right hand is bleeding. No one disagrees
that wasn't
with that.
any part of my
One
objection.
sec.
My
One
objection
thing I'm going to
was-
do is, just because we are at a fiery point, I'm going to go in 2-minute intervals. So we do this once in a while. And so we'll give Tom 2 minutes, then we'll go back to you, Jake, for 2 minutes, and we'll keep flipping back and forth.
So again, my contention with Black Lives Matter is that they claim there is a disproportional effect to African Americans, which is objectively false. If you compare it to the rate of crime, it is exactly proportional. It doesn't disproportionately affect African Americans. That's the fact I'm disagreeing with. Obviously, police crime is an issue. I totally agree, and we definitely need to solve that. And there's policy issues that we definitely need to solve. And they're like on the back burner of Black Lives Matter agenda. Yes, those are good things they should be focusing on, not the police shootings of African Americans. They should be focusing on police shootings. Those are an issue for everyone, and exactly proportional to the amount of crime in the communities that have those police because of the amount of crime. This is not like a serious, like, just all of the facts bear this out.
Maybe we'll do 1-minute intervals. That was about 45 seconds. We'll kick it over to
Without
Jake.
context, obviously it would. But you seem to not understand the cascade effect of the idea that if you over-police a situation, like if you over-police black communities that are already systemically caused to be poor, then you're going to find minor infractions. People are going to end up with speeding tickets. They're going to end up not being able to afford certain things. They're going to have to turn to crime to afford the fact that they are being policed more often. This is just like literally every black experience in America has someone, if they don't experience it themselves, they know somebody that has experienced this, where the systemic oppression of police officers being in their area and focusing on them specifically due to their skin color and the neighborhood they live in. While it does certainly affect people of poverty all over, people of poverty are not profiled in the same way that black people are. It cascades because you have people that get put away for minor offenses. Now they can't get a job, or now they're making less money for their family. They already don't have familial wealth. They don't have a system that can back them up. We don't have any social safety nets to help these people. It would, of course, make more crime. And then when you add more police to more crime, it doesn't help. It obviously isn't the answer to it. More policing is not the answer. The answer is to address specifically poverty, voting rights, housing, health care, job creation, all of these things that Black Lives Matter actively advocates for out loud all the time, but you seem to be dismissing these things because you saw a statistic on FBI. It sounded like a coherent thing. It seems very reasonable to think that way, but you totally rip away any of the context that's necessary to even parse that data. It doesn't make any sense at all. It'd be like looking at exit polls and not really reading their nuanced opinion of the actual candidate, rather just who they're going to vote for or who they aren't. Like, you need to know more of these things. You need to know things about the policy decisions that someone would like to see out of a candidate, for instance. Like, you need to contextualize these things. The fact that you don't contextualize these things, it's just straight up ignorance, and it's just playing into the hand of something on the far right that is very harmful to the black community in general.
I got to give Tom 2 minutes to match it. Go ahead,
So
Tom.
yeah, that's just objectively false. You just have a diluted perception of reality. Like, no, the context is the amount of crime. The amount of police is directly proportional to the amount of crime. Does that lead to a negative reinforcement cycle? Absolutely. But the solution isn't stop the police, it's stop the crime, which of course isn't going to be stopped by more police. I agree with you there. The solution is fix the policies. As I mentioned earlier, yes, Black Lives Matter does have a lot of other issues, which are the issues they should be focusing on, not the police brutality. That is my issue, is that they're focusing on this myth of police brutality against African Americans when it's just police brutality proportional to the crime, which happens to everyone all over the place because there are bad policies everywhere. The goal should not be to focus on police brutality. It should be to fix those issues that you mentioned, which I totally agree with, not the police brutality. That isn't the issue. The issue is the crime, and to fix the crime, you need to fix the policies.
And the police brutality is something they want to stop in the meantime while the policies are being fixed. Like, they're literally being targeted and shot. It's not a good thing, and they do it in ways that are abhorrent to like even the most like jaded individuals. Like, you see someone just get shot with their kids in the car. Like, this happens definitely to white people. It doesn't happen as often. But you disagree because you don't know how to parse that statistic at all. You just don't understand it. And that's okay, I guess. But, like, there's just no way we're going to get past that because you don't understand contextualizing things when it regards to statistics because you don't have the background for it, which is fine. Like I can't teach you how to do that during this period of time. Like, I went to school for it. And it's so blatantly obvious. It's strange to even have to describe to you why it's important to contextualize data like that. But you're like, no, I don't need that. I just have the numbers, and it's wild. I don't even like. It doesn't seem to make any sense at all to keep harping on these 2 points. I'm happy to take questions if we need to, if you need something else from me. But you just like absolutely are not like prepared to add context.
We've got a challenge.
I wanted to definitely comment on that. So actually, I'm more qualified than you in this. You don't understand how to parse the data. I do, which is why I'm researching the academics in the field who have done so and have parsed the data and have qualified it that it is really the crime that is the relevant factor here. The amount of police is proportional to the amount of crime. And yes, obviously, they're going to make more stupid mistakes if there's more police there. The relevant data of all of the academics in the field who have researched this and have published papers, for the most cited ones, are agreeing with my assessment of the data. Yours is just a diluted one based on like SJW nonsense that doesn't correspond to the data.
SJW
I understand exactly.
It's based on literal
Hold
historical
on
precedents.
Do you still have to give Tom?
Take it up with the historians and economists who all prove you wrong. So that's because I'm actually interested in the real data,
historians
not
and
the
economists-
fictional
Hold on.
data.
Tom's only about 30,
All right.
30 seconds in.
Yeah.
They do disagree with you. That's why most of the academics cite the sources I listed, which do say there isn't a disproportional amount. It is exactly proportional to the crime. There is no contextualized nonsense of this other stuff you're mentioning. That's all other data for other topics. The one that matters is where the crime. The crime is the problem because that's where the cops are going to be, obviously. So no, like your facts and understanding of the data and contextualization is just wrong. You don't understand the academic work in the field. Sorry.
You're like literally an armchair philosopher. It's wild. Like, it just isn't. You can't. Again, you just said you can't. Those are points of data for other topics. Like, no, like it literally bleeds all the way down to the foundation of the country. And if you can't understand that, then like there's no wonder you have this stance. Because you can't think on a long systemic lens. It seems like you're incapable of it because you just say the crime, but like there's causes to that. Like you're forcing you're forcing individuals into a situation where under capitalism and under systemic oppression, they are forced to take certain actions that you would find to be criminal and you would find to be unethical in your, quote, stupid decisions. But in their case, it's like having to do things for survival, which doesn't... I don't know how you can't even look at through an ethical lens. You're only doing it like morality. Like stealing is bad. Is stealing bad? Is stealing medicine for a child a good thing? Yes, probably. Depends. Like these are ethical dilemmas, and you just have like a 37% statistic, and you're unwilling to involve yourself in the broader thinking of the societal issue at hand, which is, I mean, do you?
No, you weren't listening at all to anything I said, because I agree with you that all of those other things, the causes of crime, those are things that we need to focus on. Those are the things we should
right,
be
and your
focusing
solution
on.
to it is...
One sec. I do still have Tom is just starting yet.
So I agree with you. Those other issues are the things we should be focusing on, not the police. Like if we just eradicated all the police, just abolished America completely and just started a new country called whateveristan, and we said, okay, well, we need to police certain areas. What areas should we police? Well, we should police the ones with the most crime. And so we're going to put the police in the areas with the crime. That's not, the past issues don't matter. It's the crime that matters. Now, I agree that those past issues are things we need to fix, but we don't fix them by getting rid of the police. Like the police have problems. We definitely need to fix many of the problems in the police for everyone. But the solution to the solving to benefit African-American communities is solving the crime by solving education and voting rights and gerrymandering and political corruption. Those things are absolutely what you should be focusing on.
Again, you've totally ripped the context away. When you hear someone say abolish the police, you think they don't want anything in place of the police?
No, abolish means that, but demonetize means no. Like, so abolishing means, yeah, you get rid of all of it, but that's not what people normally say.
But that's not this. So abolish the police is a shorthand, right?
I don't think it's abolish. Abolish isn't the word they use. They use a different word. They just defund.
Defunding the police is another word.
Defund does not mean get rid of. Defund means separate the funding to different segments of the community, like decrease the funding. Abolish would be get rid of.
Well, as someone who values liberty, I wouldn't really want more police.
I never said anything about more police.
Well, yeah, but you wouldn't want less police then, right?
Right. I wouldn't ask for less police.
You think we're at the exact sweet spot of policing?
The amount, I'd say.
How do you quantify
I'd say
that?
the policies, yeah, I have no idea.
How do you quantify the Goldilocks zone of police?
Yeah, I have no idea. I was just going with what you said there. So
I don't know either.
But I would
so
say
how can you say that having fewer police would be bad if you don't know what number of police is good?
No, I'm saying that's not the solution. The solution is to focus on the policies, not the number of police.
Why isn't that the solution?
Having 10 perfect police who never do anything wrong versus having one police is not going to make a difference. The problem isn't the number of police. It's the bad policies and the bad actions of police. Those are the problems. It's literally the number of police wouldn't make a difference one way or the other if they just did their job right. So the problem is the policies.
Right. And in the meantime, they're like, please don't kill us while we do that.
Yeah, everyone's like that because they kill everyone exactly proportional to the amount of police that are there.
Okay, but black people have been at the hands of it for longer. Even if it's been 1-to-1 for the last, I don't know, however long you think it's been 1-to-1. I mean, it obviously hasn't, but they've been experiencing disproportionate violence from the police since the inception of police.
Well, they definitely used to experience more violence from the police, disproportionate. That's for sure.
Okay, so when did that stop?
Whenever the statistics show, I would have to look at the data to try and figure out when it was proportional. But we can look at the data and show that police brutality has actually been going down since the 1990s. The number of people shot by police has been going down. The number of crimes committed has been going down. Like everything's been balancing out for like the past 30 years.
So for 30 years.
It's been like moving closer to being balanced for the past 30 years. Like just crime stats in general have been going down for the past 30 years. Okay. I don't know at what point it became even, but the crime stats from at least 2015 show it's exactly proportional. The amount of people shot by police are exactly proportional to the amount of crimes.
Okay. We're just saying the same things over and over.
Yeah, pretty much.
We have a challenge right now. If there are any other YouTube creators out there, like Tom, if you could do me a favor and jump into your YouTube studio, right now I can't get to the super chats beyond the ones that it shows when you first look at it. So, for example, I go into
Is there any-
supers.
How do we do that? Like, how would we actually see the super chats other than the ones that are just in the chat right now?
So you go into your creator studio, you go down to, usually on the left side of the screen, you have tabs, one of them being monetization. You click see all, and then I can't see all. It just comes up as blank. And I'm not sure if it's me or other creators, but I've tried it on both devices and we have a challenge. So
Yeah, mine show up.
let's see. Yeah, I have no idea what's happening, but let me try another browser. I can try Firefox on my other device, but this is looking challenging. I think in the worst case scenario, we'd have to ask everybody to basically, as a normal chat, put in their question, let us know it was one of the super chats, and we just have to go on the honor policy and read those, because right now I can hopefully access this, and sorry folks, I honestly don't know what to do. So Jake, do you know if you're able to access, like,
I can't access that now.
no, I mean, like, if I'm the only creator, I don't know why I'd be the only account though that would have this problem.
Oh, well, I haven't streamed on YouTube in quite some time, so I wouldn't know how it
Gotcha.
works.
Supers. We can see like the last 5 because it'll always show the most recent.
You start with those, I guess.
You're right. We'll have to do that. I can't see all of them though in their entirety. Let me see if I can do this. If there's anybody in the live chat, any community or creators that have had this problem, and knows how to fix it, I have no idea. It's just seems like a weird YouTube thing. But let me see what I can pull up here.
You can set it on OBS to like tag all of them for you. So it just saves them in the background later. You can't do it now. You'll have to do it in future, but you can set OBS to save all the super chats for you.
We will have to do that in the future because this is just not working. So folks, I hate to ask this. I know it's a pain, but if you guys can, as a normal chat, tag me with @ModernDayDebate and ask your question and just let us know. We have to use the honor system and read through as many as we can. Sorry, folks. I honestly am like totally bummed at YouTube. So just in the chat, let me know. We want to make sure that your super chat, we know that you're actually doing that. Like you're not trying to just throw money out there. And so you want your comment read. And so yeah, just put it as a normal chat. Obviously it wouldn't make sense. I hope it makes sense that don't do it as a super chat. We can't access those. So just put it as a normal chat and let us know. Let's see.
Someone just did a super chat. Should we read that as it goes, or just
I guess we'll
do
have
the honor
to.
policy? Or...
If you could read it, and I'll try to troubleshoot over here. Thanks for that. Appreciate it, Ruby.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so Clever to Swear donated $10 and says BLM is not just police brutality, let alone one shooting stat. When it comes to non-lethal violence, arrests adjusted for crime rate, amount of severity, and sentencing is disproportionate against Blacks adjusting for crime rate. So I think they're just saying that it's an issue that extends into all different aspects of the criminal justice system.
We couldn't even get into sentencing. So, but yeah, sentencing is disproportionately misaffects Black individuals.
We do have another one. This one, Ophir says, I'm trusting you all. Says, let's see. Yeah, that's more of just a surface level insult. I'm going to skip on that one. We're looking for like legitimate questions. So if it's something like, we get some weird stuff. And so we're looking for like serious questions. If you can do that for us.
Didn't you say there were like 5 super chats you could read?
I can see like the first half of them, but they
Start
like
with
run
those.
off the screen to the right side.
Oh, I gotcha.
What I'm going to do is we do have other ones. And so Ruby, what I'm going to do is call Praise because he actually
Hey, if you guys want to do
has
$5
access
so I
to
can insult
our-
them, go for it.
He has access to the YouTube channel, whether that's smart or not. But if you can read, so for example, one just came in from a person with, I think that's like the Chinese Communist flag. If you're able to see that in chat, and I'm going to call Praise and see if he can access the super chats from where he is.
I'll read
Sorry,
the ones
folks.
that I see here. All right, Jonathan Depu at Modern Day Debate. Can TJ or Tom give a brief account of policing in the U.S. and how that might impact our present understandings of policing? So that's for you, Tom.
Give an account of policing and how that does he mean like the historical disproportional policing against African American communities? That definitely happened. It's definitely a real thing. I mean, I don't dispute any of the racism that has happened, and there's lots of racism that happens today. The issue is like, what should the focus be? And my contention is that the amount of police shootings is not disproportionately affecting African Americans. It's exactly proportional to the crime. So that issue isn't the one Black Lives Matter should be focusing on. They should be focusing on the other things that, like all the things Jake mentioned, like crime, like fixing education, fixing healthcare, fixing the voting rights, fixing corrupt politics. All of those things would be great topics for them to be like their flagship topic. The one their actually flagship topic just isn't factually correct.
All of those are topics that Black Lives Matter routinely
As I
talks
mentioned
about.
in my opening, those are other secondary topics. It's just not their main
I think they're
topic.
equally as important. I mean, they get talked about just as much in Black spaces. I don't know if you talk to like people involved in Black Lives Matter, but maybe you should. I think you'd be a little illuminated on it because
Yeah, I do actually. I'm part of several of the groups here.
Well, I mean, I'm glad because they discuss these things all the time, specifically in regards to like cash bail, specifically in regards to like sentencing issues, in regards to targeted policing, all those sorts of things.
Yeah, but again, the main issue, like if you just ask any person, what is Black Lives Matter issue? They're going to say police brutality and shooting African Americans. That's the problem I'm having. Like if the other things were the big issues, that'd be great. I'm totally for it. It's just not this one, which is factually incorrect.
It's because that one is the most visceral one when they kill people. It's hard to show people systemic injustice on the news screen. Like it's hard, but it's very easy to show you stepping on the neck of a person and murdering them.
Right, which happens to white people too, as
yeah,
I
and
mentioned.
that gets reported too. But
No,
All
it
right,
doesn't.
do you guys
That's
want
the
to move on
problem.
to the next question? This one's from El Greco, and I'm assuming it's for Jake. It says, "Men are shot by police disproportionately. Does that mean that the police are misandrist?"
Does it mean that the police are misandrous? Well, there's obviously a problem. I think if you think you're gonna gotcha me because like you might be an MRA or something, you think I'm like a hardcore feminist or something, it's gonna be weird. But I think men have a bunch of problems that we need to be able to address. Specifically in regards to something like toxic masculinity, which perpetuates stuff like this. Which doesn't mean that masculinity is toxic. It just means that there are aspects that we associate with masculinity that tend to be toxic. For instance, the idea that a man needs to be particularly aggressive or needs to be, anything. It all forms into gender roles. There are aspects of toxic femininity as well, and all things in regards to gender roles. But a lot of that, yeah, I would tend to agree that men are also perpetrators of crime at a higher rate, and there's aspects of our society that we need to address in general. Like consent is a huge one. We don't talk about consent, and a lot of rape happens, or sexual assault in general, and that's a big problem as well. So, yeah. I mean, if you want to call that misandry, you can.
Well, I think he's asking for what's the difference. Why is it in that case there's all these other social issues, and it's not just, well, we should just cut back on policing.
Yeah, I don't think people should be arrested and policed at the rate they are. I totally disagree with that. I am very on the side of freedom. I'm not one for like, oh yes, please, daddy, put me in the jail cell because I sped in my car too quick. I think maybe we could do a much more reasonable way to police our neighborhoods that don't include fining poor people, putting people in jail that can't afford fines, putting out warrants for arrests for people that do minor infractions that they can't pay for. Plenty of stuff. I'm pretty much only for violent offenders being put in any sort of prison cell because it doesn't make sense. There's no reform. It's all punitive. It doesn't have to do anything with
James,
the way,
mute yourself.
Yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with making the world a better place. It has to do with basically penalizing poor people and making money off of the labor of other people. Specifically in regards to how we treat slave labor in the prisons, and it's not good.
All right, so I've got another question for Jake. This is from Layman, and he said, "Did you bring studies with peer-reviewed citations to give Tom the context he needs, rather than moral posturing and ad homs?"
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of those things, but most people, when you're in debates, you don't want to just read each other's papers because that's not really what it's about. It's about arguing on behalf of the statistics. But if you are interested in them, I can send them your way. I have a big thing that we didn't even get into, which is the misreporting of police reports in general that the FBI has been investigating since 1929. The FBI, in fact, has totally taken over, for instance, Chicago's crime statistics in 2013. They dismissed them and had to redo them on behalf of Chicago PD because they just underreport crime and change a lot of parameters. The corruption within police is not a secret in America. We're all pretty well aware that there's not always the most above board way to determine crime. They have a lot of places. It's how the police departments maintain money is by making sure that they can give tickets out and make sure crime happens. And then again, if you're targeting poor areas like a black community, for instance, you're going to have people that can't afford a $150 ticket, and they're going to end up with a warrant, and then they're going to end up arrested, and just it feeds into itself yet again. So yeah, if you're interested in any of that stuff, I have plenty of articles. I have some peer-reviewed stuff. I mean, just it's all over the place.
Specifically relating to the topic, do you have those?
Yeah, specifically relating to the topic. It just depends on how important context is to you from a systemic basis. But
if you have papers that show that there is a disproportionate amount of African Americans who are shot compared to whites, yes, I would like to see those. It's
not just about okay.
All right, do you want to do the next question?
Yes, please.
This one's for Tom. It's why is it that you ignore the cause of systemic racism and only focus on the FBI stat numbers? Don't you think there's greater cause for those numbers? And this is basically what you guys have been going in a circular argument for a while.
Yes, there is greater cause in those numbers, but the question is what is the solution? What are we doing to fix the numbers? And the solution isn't cut back on police. The solution is fix the policies, fix the bad things. So that's the focus is my concern. I definitely agree. Police are bad. There are definitely corrupt police all over the place, and they definitely do things to all people. We should fix that for sure. But the focus should be on fixing the crime, fixing the things that are really destroying everything in society, like the politics. The fixing the police isn't even in the top 100 of the biggest issues that you should be focusing on.
I mean, again, it's just the sexy one that the news talks about because it's easy to show someone getting killed. But I mean, there's a bunch of discussions within Black Lives Matter, including but not limited to the 13th Amendment, for instance, which allows slave labor in prisons. Private prisons are a big thing. Cash bail, like I mentioned before. Like Black Lives Matter is literally a movement about systemic racism on a broad scale. It is not limited to the shootings. I don't know why I have to keep repeating that. I understand that it is the sexy topic that is the most visceral. It's the most distinguished. It's easiest to illustrate. You can just show a dead black person being shot, and it's just another one of the facets of living a black life in America. It's part of the lived experience, and I mean, it's weird to me that I guess you're so fixated on that specific thing because that's not what the debate is. The debate is all lives versus black lives, not the specificity of shooting deaths. That's one aspect of the BLM movement that you are very fixated on, and it doesn't seem productive.
I did mention all of those things in my opening. Here are the
I'm
good
aware,
things.
But every time I bring them up, you're I literally just you ask for papers, and I have a lot of systemic papers that would back up everything I said, and then you go, yeah, but what about the people that get shot? Like, you just keep going back
because
to it.
I agree with a lot of the things Black Lives Matter does do. I don't disagree with them on everything. So bringing up the topics I agree with them on is doesn't interest me. Like I agree with you. So what about the thing I don't agree with you on? That's the important one.
All right. So General Balzac says, what is Jake's historical knowledge? What books and papers have you read to inform your worldview?
I mean, I have a degree in history. Do you want more? I don't. What specific books have you read? I don't know. Fire and a Canebrake by Laura Wexler. There's a good starting point as far as voter suppression is involved with systemic issues in regards to black individuals having the legal right to vote. But obviously, if you have white people that are stopping you from doing so, well, that's not going to happen, is it? You're not going to be able to vote. It's active voter suppression, not sanctioned by laws, not anything like that. But you can't. Just because the civil rights movement happened doesn't mean we beat racism. It seems very, very idiotic to do. And there's like Black Wall Street is a thing that's gotten some mainstream popularity recently. But look up North Carolina and how that community had to deal with a few very similar actions. Look up Detroit race riots. Go ahead and do that. Like there's so many aspects of this country that are rooted deeply within racism, and if it makes you uncomfortable as a white person, okay, that's what you can do. Or you could just read about it and understand and take people at their word. Like, here are my experiences. These are my bad experiences. Isn't it interesting that being black in America makes you subject to negative experiences for an immutable aspect of yourself? It's the same thing as not understanding that you're privileged to have been born in America rather than somewhere that's incredibly poor, I don't know, a very urban set of India or something, where you have to scrounge for food and stuff. It's just basic stuff that I don't know, maybe you need to go to school for, or just I think the internet is free. You can hop on some McDonald's Wi-Fi and go on Wikipedia and learn a bunch. So I strongly suggest if you are made uncomfortable or if your initial reaction is I'm not racist, I think maybe just try to learn and try to listen to people. It's a much better situation. And if you still disagree, you can happily jump on over to my chat and I'll explain to you why you're wrong.
All right, so we've got James Librato just donated $20. Thank you, James. He said, Jake, what do you make of the Marxian Marxist motives of BLM and Antifa? That ideology has historically never ended in the proposed outcome of equity and happiness. It's just created a new bourgeoisie.
Well, I mean, there are some people that are absolutely Marxists within any left-wing movement, most likely. I wouldn't say that Black Lives Matter is explicitly a Marxist movement, as many people that are members of it don't consider themselves communists and more likely probably sock dems. You probably consider me a Marxist or a Marxian, whatever the hell that word was. Some sort of, I don't know, weird boogeyman word that you have for people that aren't super big fans of capitalism. Most people enjoy aspects of capitalism. They like their PlayStations, they like going to Taco Bell, they like their LaCroix is a great example. There's lots of different things that you like about capitalism, and some of those things you could achieve without it. But I mean, clearly, there's an issue with equity in regards to where we have starting places, or the very bottom of the barrel that you should be if you are an American citizen, where you say we're the greatest country in the world. We have the highest incarceration rates. We have ridiculous amounts of debt, whether it's student debt, medical debt, or otherwise. We have homelessness at rampant. 1 in 5 or 6 children have issues with hunger in America. That doesn't sound like the greatest country in the world. The greatest country in the world should provide things like healthcare for all citizens, because you're only as healthy as your least healthy individual. When you're all in the same border together, you should make sure you provide basic shelter for people, food, water access. You should make sure that we provide education for people so that we have an upward mobility. You can defeat poverty very quickly by making sure that you have a very bare minimum, your bottom of the barrel is going to be at least taken care of as well as a prisoner in a prison, but with the added benefit of their freedom and them being able to go and do whatever they want. I can't imagine being against those things. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So if you couldn't consider that Marxist, I think you have a dog shit idea of what Marxism actually is. And maybe you should read the Bread Book or something, which is not a thing that I necessarily totally agree with. Like I'm not a communist personally, but like if you think that's Marxism, I just think you're probably big dum dum.
All right. Well, we got some new super chats in. We've got Gabrielle K says, scenario 1, drugged up guy gets shot by the police. 2 drugged up guy shoot up family of 5. Is the police good or bad here? Address the real issue, please.
Drugged up? I think from a libertarian standpoint, I think drugs should be legalized. And I think if you're scared of drugs, you're a weak-minded piss baby. It's not very helpful, but that's like a. I mean, if you're just dealing in hypotheticals, I mean, how do you feel about 65% of police being abusers?
Good call, baby bird.
Which is a real statistic. That is a thing. 65% of police do in fact commit abuse in their households. So I mean, like, are they good bad guys or bad guys? I don't know, man.
All right, so we've got another $5 super chat from Seth Benedetti, and it's for not Jake, so I'm assuming that's for Tom. The uniformed officers who can kill basically with judicial immunity shouldn't be a priority. What's scarier than a criminal with a badge?
Yeah, I definitely think qualified immunity is a bad thing, and we should probably get rid of it. Definitely. I don't see any issue there.
Okie dokie. All right, now Stuart. Oh, did you want to say?
Oh, no, go ahead. That's actually one I'm glad you got. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Stuart. Hi, Stuart. Tom, it sounds like you came for a police shooting debate, not an all lives matter versus Black Lives Matter debate. Police brutality includes unfair arrests, and it seems you agree Black people face discrimination beyond shooting.
Yeah, Black people definitely face discrimination in lots of ways. That's my issue, is that why is this one the one they're focusing on when it's not actually one of those examples? So there are lots of actual issues that African Americans face that Black Lives Matter should be focusing on. This one isn't one of them. So that's my issue.
Next, we do have one or two other, just in case you had, I'm not sure which ones you for sure got, Ruby, but yeah, I got a hold of Praise. He said he had the same problem when accessing the account. But Johnny V, thanks for your question to Jake, said, when will the Quran Reloaded return?
Probably not ever. It's terribly demonetized. Yeah.
Gotcha.
YouTube doesn't like that shit. It's a lot of work. Quran is still not a good book. Neither is the Bible.
I think you probably, Ruby, in case you got any of these questions, let me know. I've been trying to keep track of new ones coming in as well. There was one from El Greco. Did you get that one about men are shot?
Yeah, I got that one, but I think he might have asked a second question that I missed. So if he pops up again, I would read the second one. This
is the one asking if police are misandrist.
Yeah, we did that one. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Sorry about that. And religion is BS. Thank you for your question. Said, I think you haven't gotten this one, have you? They said, only debate in recent memory where I disagree with Tjump. Followed Jake since the Bible Reloaded days. Love you, dude. Keep doing you. You have a fan out there, Jake.
I appreciate the simping, but that is not a question.
Next up, let's see. Reaction to his... Yeah, I'm so sorry, folks. What we've also done before in the past is sometimes when a guest had to leave or something, we've just kind of paid your super chat forward. And so let us know in a future stream, like, hey, you didn't read it, and we'll count a normal chat. We'll read it at the top of the list, because I'm really sorry, guys. Unless there are any other new questions, we might wrap up. So thank you so much to our guests. I want to say Tom Tjump, Jake, and Ruby are all linked in the description, folks. So if you'd like to hear more, you can hear plenty more from all three of them. And so one last final thanks. We really do appreciate you being here with us, Tom, Jake, for your debating, especially being in the hot seat. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
Yep.
And then we had another question. Let's see. Gabriel K. This one I think is maybe a challenge to Jake. That I support BLM as long as it's about progress in policies helping all, in all caps, instead of burning down property.
Well, I don't think BLM specifically is always the ones that are burning down property. Though if you are letting the idea of like a Whataburger or something getting burned down, and that's like really bothering you in regards to a minority population that spent the last 400 years trying to have equal rights, not just under the law, but in society, which is a very important distinction, actually being treated as equal members of society from a zeitgeist perspective, from a societal perspective. I mean, it's always go ahead and protest, but not like this. I mean, it seems very privileged. It's like, what do you expect at a certain point for people to do? It just seems to me that like if you're really valuing property and stuff like that more, I think you need to consider why you value it more, and it's probably has to do with, not to sound like a Marxian or whatever the hell that guy said, but I think you need to consider the fact that capital and property is not more important than human happiness or human life or human flourishing. And I totally understand someone in there is probably screaming right now, those are people's livelihoods, and that's totally valid, but a lot of those places have insurance, they can be rebuilt, the people aren't really going to lose that much money, and plus it's the middle of a fucking pandemic anyway. Small businesses are already suffering because you voted for Donald Trump. So I mean, like, make up your mind. Do you like human prosperity? Do you want like equal rights under the society, or do you just like paying lip service to it so you can feel like you did performative wokeness just enough so that you can go vote for Joe Biden in the election? Like, come on, it just seems like where are your actual values at?
Well, I think the concern is more burning down of the black businesses that don't have insurance because they can't afford it. I mean,
Yeah,
I agree.
sometimes that
Whataburger,
shit's
Target,
gonna happen, man.
who cares?
Sometimes it's just going to happen. Like the same thing that happened in the LA riots, and that was the same shit that white supremacists did when they were like, they burned down the Korean businesses and stuff. Like, I don't know. It's the same energy. It's not really productive. That's not what it's about. Sometimes shit happens, but I mean, like, these places are targeted already by terrible policies that have already destroyed them. Like, it's just pretty fucking irrelevant.
Next, we do have a question from Blue Heron. Do want to read this, as I know that they sent a super chat earlier. I think we missed. They asked if both of the people debating believe in Medicare for all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Same boat on that one. And then Larry, I saw you said that, I think you said you sent a super chat. If you put it in as a normal chat, I will read it if you can put it in quick. And so, want to say also, though, thanks to Ruby, as we really appreciate her help moderating, especially on train wrecks tonight with our YouTube glitch that we've had. And Ophir, if you have a serious super chat, the last one, like I said, looked like just an insult. So if you have a serious one, just retype it in the chat. So let's see. Otherwise, I think that's it. So
there's one more here for $10. Someone just put in. Did you see that? Is that a new one?
Gotcha. You got it. Okay, thanks so much.
So Jake, BLM/Antifa are explicitly Marxist/Marxian. Do more research. Standpoint epistemology is not a good starting point when it comes to creating policy, obviously, due to the mess of the left at the moment.
They're definitely.
I think that's more of like a statement than
they're definitely not explicitly Marxist. There are explicitly Marxist individuals that involve themselves in BLM, sure, but like again, it's a lefty movement. It's Marxian. Is that a thing? Like I actually had never heard that before.
I think so.
That's fucking. Is it
positive.
Marxian?
Marxian. Yeah, I think someone would say like Marxian economics or. I don't know. Maybe it's
Marxist
funny now.
economics, maybe.
Yeah.
Antifa, by the way, doesn't have an official structure. It's just people that identify as anti-fascists and tend to cover their faces and do things. And I don't always agree with Molotoving stuff, but most of the time that's not what's happening, right? It's most of the time these people are standing in front of black people that are peacefully protesting, and sometimes shit gets weird at night. As far as Marxist, there's not like a Marxist ideal that would cause that, unless you are implying like the part where revolution might need to occur post-socialism, but that's not where we're at right now. So I think you need to read Marxist literature if you want to critique it. I think maybe you just don't really understand what it is. I think you just get like a little spooked when people are like, capitalism has bad stuff in it, and you're like, no, I like it. And it's like maybe consider why you unabashedly like stand for capitalism when it actively hurts people sometimes. Like we've reduced human value down to things like productivity. What? That doesn't sound fucking healthy for anybody. And while, again, I have said before, like I like aspects of capitalism, but there's ways to do this in a more ethical way, and we can slowly wean ourselves off of a system that like doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like the only reason capitalism exists is because we agree it exists. Like money isn't real. It's like a made up thing. It's useful right now, but like we're slowly seeing that we are running that timeline down, and we're going to have to move towards things like UBI is a great example, where it kind of fucks with the idea of what even is money at that point when you're starting to do universal basic income. So why wouldn't everything just be universal? So
Gotcha.
I mean,
you got it. And we do have a question that's maybe both of you could answer. They asked for both. They said, Joe Henthorne, thanks for your question. Joe said, good debate, guys. It seems like you both agree that systemic racism is a thing. Would you agree on a compromised approach between policy and policing?
I mean,
Sure.
It's super broad. Probably. It depends on what it is.
Gotcha. And then I think that might be it. Larry, so sorry I missed your question. If let's see. This one comes in from Roy. Says, Roy Segal, appreciate it. Says, does Tom think a fix needs to be top down, and does Jake think that it needs to be bottom up?
I mean, it depends on I'm assuming this is specifically on this front. I think it's both. I think most things can take a both approach. You're going to have to start in your communities because you have to change the social zeitgeist in order to make people not racist, right? You have to understand, like, this is part of the reason that Black Lives Matter is a very, very good thing. It's bringing the conversation into white suburban homes. It's bringing the conversation into rather privileged spaces where they don't normally talk about that. Like sports, for instance, where a lot of right-leaning people go like, it's my escape. But it's built on the back of black athletes for the most part, especially in the United States, with the NFL and NBA being the most popular sports. Like, of course, this is going to affect those communities. So having the conversation occur at the grassroots level, at the individual level, is obviously very important. But you can't change systemic issues without like laws and legislation. But you're not going to get people to vote for people that are doing that without the bottom up. So you need both. But it starts probably bottom up. That's probably the majority, but like any other electoral system, that's just kind of how it works. I don't know if you disagree.
Yeah, I'd do the same thing, but I'd apply the same bottom-up standard to essentially the African American community. First thing you need to do is stop committing crimes is probably the biggest thing.
Next.
I guess. But
Next up, Larry Cloys, thanks for your question, said, Tjump, correlation is not causation. We need to look at why those statistics are happening, like over-policing, red line laws, and many others.
How does he not understand that makes it sound like it's inherent in black people?
Me?
He's muted. Jake's muted.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that was for you, Tom.
Yeah,
they're challenging you, Tom.
Oh, gotcha. I just saw him talking. I was like, I didn't know if he... So, yeah. What was the question again?
They said, Tjump, correlation is not causation. We need to look at why those stats are happening, like over-policing, red line laws, and many others.
Again, the stats are exactly proportional to the amount of crime, so you can't really call it over-policing in those situations if it's exactly proportional to the crime.
Gotcha. And I think that was it. So I want to say thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. We know these are controversial topics. Oh, and then Stuart Keating.
Crime as reported
Ruby,
by
just
police.
to be sure that you got theirs. They said, Tom, just to clarify, you think most issues that BLM want to tackle and they list on their website is something you support. Your only problem is just fixating on police shooting?
Yeah, that's the biggest one because it's just factually false. I'm sure there are others too I've seen before. I'd have to just go through their list, but That's the biggest issue I have, is that one is just factually incorrect.
Gotcha. And I want to say thanks so much, folks. We know these are controversial topics. We want to let you know, no matter what walk of life, we do hope you feel welcome here. We appreciate you, whether you be leaning to the left, leaning to the right, Christian, atheist, you name it. And so if you enjoy Juicy Debates, we've got a lot more coming up. Hit that subscribe button. Tomorrow we have an evidence for the resurrection debate. So that should be interesting. And so with that, I want to say thanks so much to our guests. And last of all, folks, thanks so much for tuning in. Keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable. Take care, everybody. And we're off air. Thank you, guys.
All right. Yeah, that was interesting. Did you ever find the super chats? What the heck?
No, actually, I contacted Praise, and even he, so he's like obviously on a different device. No idea what browser, but I tried both of my browsers, and he was like, no, I can't get it either. So I have no idea, but it's happened before, and it's like, what the heck?
What the? Oh, that sucks.
It says Mr. Linux. Does that Dr. John Linux? Is that the Linux?
No. It's like
Okay.
I think he teaches at USC.
Gotcha. All right, I'm gonna get some dinner. I'll see you guys later.
All right.
Rad.
Take care.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Take care. What I can do is send you guys the footage. If you'd like, goodbye, Tom. Okay, but I'll send you.
I don't need the footage on my end.
Okay, you got it.
I already have it.
But let me know if there's other links you want me to put in the description. If you'd like me to add anything, I've got your YouTube down there. And so, yeah, thanks for coming on.
But Twitch, specifically.
Will do.
Twitch.tv/ActualJake is the main one. But I also have my personal YouTube, which is the same thing. Actual Jake on YouTube.
You got it.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Yep. All right. You guys have a good night.
Thanks, Jake. Take care.
Thanks. So for the record, I'll just show this to you real quick.
Her ramble was just a gorilla.
For the record, at 8:39 p.m. today. Let me show you. This was sent to me. Why does this happen every time I debate on there? What? It's too small? Okay, it reads like this. Oh, I just noticed we originally agreed on the topic of BLM versus All Lives Matter back on August 9th, which Tom is assuming for tonight, but I accidentally titled it, Does BLM Do More Harm Than Good? This is the topic that he discussed with me today. Are you okay with the original title of All Lives Matter versus Black Lives Matter? Every time, man. Every time I go on there, bro. Every time. It's literally every time. Jesus Christ, Tjump gave me whiplash. What a fucking size.
Her ramble was just a gorilla.
Yeah, I don't think he really understood what he was talking about. I understand why that stat sounds compelling if you don't put it into context, but I don't know how you can't take into account over-policing, inappropriate reporting of crime. I don't know how you can't, like, the way that like, literally any of it ends up being, like, used. It's just fucking weird to me that you don't, like, get it, I guess. Thanks for following, whoever's following. Appreciate it. James is bad. Monitor debate's bad. Don't go on anymore. I don't know. Sometimes I like it. You should have asked him if crime is caused by societal factors or biological ones. I did ask him if he thought it was inherent, and he said no. I did ask him that. I just didn't ask him that specific way. I don't know how much you make from going on their debates, but I will pay you not to not. No, they don't pay us to go on there. It's just content for everybody. Actually, 1350. Yeah. Their chat mods are terrible. That's why we don't go in their chat. But I'm going to talk to him about it on Friday, live in front of you guys. Yeah, I'm going to ask him about his community and I want to know what he thinks there. He's an ignorant racist, not hateful racist. Yeah, he was very disingenuous. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it wasn't that guy's. His chat is disgusting. Yeah, all the time. That's why we stay over here.
Her ramble was just
Yeah, I'm not very impressed with Tjump. You guys told me he wasn't a chud, but list every book you've ever read to support. Yeah, Revenge of the Corn. No. What are you doing Friday? Yeah, we're gonna have James on. So get your super chats ready, chat. You should go on for more LGBT issues. I want you to trigger all their chat mods. Oh, I have before. I absolutely have before. Yeah. If I missed you while you were doing stuff during the debate, it always happens, so I'm super sorry. But I appreciate the support when you guys do that. So thank you very much. Tjump debate why you should vote by. He just fundamentally doesn't understand. If I was poor, I'd subscribe, but love your work. Corn is love. Corn is life. Hey, not Manny. Don't worry about it. If you can't afford it, no problem. You can always try e-begging. It works for some people. Like some of the other big things, the black people killed by cops are exclusively committing violent crime. I know, right? And the stats are based on convictions, not crimes committed, and with less than 50%. I know. I tried to tell him that, but he doesn't listen. He wasn't listening. See, Cold Stare gifted one to not Manny. Thank you very much, Cold Stare. I appreciate you. He didn't want to like really get into it in regards to that. He wanted to talk about specifically the 37% stat, which is fucking weird. How do you not put that into any context? And how do you not think that context is important in regards to data? What? I thought I made a pretty good comparison between like the Earth's temperature and not contextualizing. If you just look at the temperature rise over time without having any additional context, like, you just don't know why it's happening, right? You just be like, well, I guess the Earth deserves to be warmer because it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, in what way wouldn't you want to add context to your fucking statistics or your data? Like, that's what the fucking point is. You have to look. Statistics aren't there alone. You need statistics and the context of a thing. It's the same way they take that Swedish study with trans suicide stats and they go blah 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 blah. They kill themselves. And no, it's not. You put it into context and it makes a lot more sense. Fucking done. You got the letter and wait. You're gonna have a vagina? Hell yeah! I hope it's the most delightful vagina ever, Void Harpy. Can we get pride copies in chat for Void Harpy's brand new Vagoo? That's dope. I'm happy for you. Some of the people in the chat legit thought you were throwing debate because of the corn suit. Oh, I don't care. It's for you guys, not them. Do you think I give a shit about that community, really? Like, most of them are chuds. There's a few people that follow that seem very actually interested in debate and, like, the ideas behind debate and stuff like that. There's a small percentage. Maybe some of you are here that followed earlier. I don't know. But, yeah, that guy did not do a good job. Why didn't anyone present the statistics he was referencing and try to assess the... I can't. Chat's going too fast. Assess the context. It's maddening watching him move goalposts so much instead of just going... yeah, he didn't want to. I don't know. And don't you know your outfit absolutely determines your debate? Hello, Enoch Madness. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't super impressed by him. If you got an education philosophy, he needs to refund it. Well, see, a philosophy degree doesn't have you parse statistics like that, so he doesn't understand how to do it. Like, for instance, what's a good example? Okay, like if you look at the election for say, not John F. Kennedy. Who's the guy that came after Jimmy Carter? Was it George W. Bush or George H.W.? I mean, Jimmy Carter. It was H.W., wasn't it? Am I nuts? Or was that... or was it, Who came after him? Who came after? It was Reagan? Well, anyway, whoever it was, like you can't just look at like Jimmy Carter's first term, or not even look at his first term. You can't just look at the his incumbent race when he was the incumbent president and how badly he lost to Reagan. You can't look at that without contextualizing it, right? You just go, well, I guess the country is more conservative than it was because Jimmy Carter was a Democrat. No. There was a lot of stuff, specifically the hostage situation. He was really bad for him at the end there. Like, there's lots of stuff. I mean, there's just so much stuff. You have to contextualize it. You can't just do that. John Gazebo, thanks for following. Freaking out. Side note, I'd love to see the Book of Mormon reloaded. I would too.